the River Tor, Devon. One of many rivers that burst their banks during heavy rainfall in December 2012. And one of the worst hit areas was here in Umberley. On the night before Christmas Eve, Vanessa Glover and her husband were returning from a party with their son. As they entered Umberley, their 4x4 vehicle seemed to be coping with the flooded roads.
Water. We just saw water. We'd turned for Umberley and entered floodwaters, and the vehicle progressed through them and the water was to the headlamps. And as we turned left off of the bridge, it was like entering a swimming pool.
This road was completely submerged. The Glovers crawled forward in their car. But then they were hit by a new torrent of water flowing from an adjoining road.
And all the water came coursing down from there and lifted our vehicle off of the road and turned it 90 degrees and came to rest against the hedge.
As the car started to fill with water, Paul Glover helped their son out onto the roof. Vanessa managed to dial 999 on her mobile phone. Meanwhile, the RNLI's flood rescue team was arriving in Devon. Jason Dunlop, Bernie Mannings, Chris Missen, Paul Eastman and Martin Blaker-Rowe had never worked together before. But it wasn't long before they were called into action.
Well, we arrived at Barnstable Fire Station just after midnight, early hours. As soon as we arrived at the fire station, the Silver Command fire officer came through the doors and asked us to deploy straight away.
Back at Umberley, Vanessa's husband was trying to help her through the car window. The water was rising.
Paul was saying, "You have to get out." And so I sort of tried to go through the window facing downwards, but the waters were, I could see, that fast flowing. And all the time Paul's there looking down at me and urging me to get onto the bonnet, and Silas is on the roof crying. Well, all this time Paul had hold of my hood, which was filling like a bucket, and my coat was pulling all across my throat and I was most uncomfortable. So I said, "You have to let go, look after Silas." And he did let go. And I saw his empty hand. And then I took off like a rocket and shot the rapids. And I was buffeted about like a rag doll.
Vanessa was dragged through the hedge, across a garden and a salvage yard, and towards the tree-lined river, where she grabbed a branch.
Yeah, we've got someone in, looks like bushes, second tender, far tender back from the front. Immediately opposite, on the other side of the bank, we've got someone in bushes.
You say the second tender along on the bushes just next to us, there's someone in the water, yes?
Yes.
Vanessa's shouts helped pinpoint her position, and a police helicopter crew kept her in view. Arriving nearby, the RNLI flood rescue team looked for a place to launch. They faced 4.6 metre high floodwaters, flowing at 12 knots, and zero visibility.
When we arrived, you could hear Mrs. Glover screaming. On the way up the road, she fell silent, and all you could hear was the female firefighter saying, make some noise. And at that point, the aura within the team changed. The priorities changed. It wasn't a case of let's look for a venue at the other side. It changed to we need to get in there and get the job done.
Jason and Bernie helped launch the rescue boat. Martin Blaker-Rowe and Chris Missen were aboard with Paul Eastman. Looking at the site today, Martin and Chris realised just how perilous their task was.
As we committed to the main flow of the river, I could see the water was hitting the top of the arch of the bridge. On returning back to the site, you can see that the fence line we'd narrowly missed, and so many other obstacles that we managed to avoid on the night. It was we were quite lucky, I think.
Crossing the river, there were high power lines that were only about 2 to 3 metres over our heads. We didn't realise that the far side of the river there was a scrapyard with untold debris field through there, and of course the debris that was flowing downstream, so trees, branches and all sorts that you expect to be there but you don't know they are going to be there.
Meanwhile, Vanessa was holding on for dear life in icy cold water.
I could feel the force of the water in the small of my back, and that was pushing me to the tree. But also it sort of inched me around, and if I sort of started at 7 o'clock, it inched me to 6 o'clock. And I thought, if I get inched to 5 o'clock, I'm off.
5148, we've got a rib in the water now. RNLI rescue's on the way to hopefully.
It was pitch black, and when I say pitch black, I mean you couldn't see the hand in front of your face. We were in the main flow of the river, and we were reversing back over the ground, if you like. So I was actually stemming the flow of the water and gradually letting the force of the water bring the boat back to Vanessa's position. It wasn't until we were actually parallel with Vanessa, who was actually 3/4 of the way up the tree, clinging to the shrubbery. It was at that point that we realised that we needed to be really quick with this.
Paul was trying to shout at her, "Stay where you are, we're coming to you." Paul grabbed hold of her, and then I assisted Paul to pull her into the boat. As you see from the video footage, it's not a pretty way of bringing her in, but our issue at the time was that if we had a person down the side of the boat, more than likely the boat was going to turn side onto the flow, and then we would have been in a whole world of trouble.
Immensely strong arms. I don't think I'll ever forget those two arms hauling me in. I never forget it. I don't know where Paul found the strength.
148 has been recovered onto the RNLI rib. She's on board the boat. The female on the boat, thank you.
Chris picked his way back through the darkness to the relative safety of a nearby meadow. Martin looked after Vanessa and told her of her family's fate. They had been rescued with the help of a local farmer and the fire brigade.
I managed to be able to tell her that her son and husband was fine, and she sat up in the boat and gave me a big cuddle and a kiss. So, yeah.
Female, miraculously, if you've seen what's going on there, is Vanessa Glover, is conscious, breathing, walking and talking.
Individually, everybody had a really key component part to play in this rescue, and it was undoubtedly a really fantastic team effort.
On the night, we run on training and adrenaline, focused on doing the job in hand. Returning today, seeing the hazards and being faced with those hazards brings it all home.
To give a family Christmas when it could quite easily not have happened is amazing, really, and I think it'll live with us as well as the Glovers for a very long time.
The one aspect of my ordeal which reduces me to tears is the knowledge that the flood rescue team thought I was worth coming to rescue, and that they were prepared to put their lives at risk in order to do that, which they did. I am absolutely overjoyed to be alive, and so very grateful.